Well, ESPN FC on ESPN Plus is presented by the all-new Honda CR-V Hybrid. Interesting stuff from Gregg Berhalter in an interview he's done with the... now, this is at a conference, in New York. In this last World Cup, we had a player that was clearly not meeting expectations on and off the field. We were ready to book a plane ticket home. That's how extreme it was. And what it came down to was we're going to have one more conversation with him, and part of the conversation was how we're going to behave from here out. There aren't going to be any more infractions. He continues, as a coach, the way you can deal with these things most appropriately is going to back to your values, because it's difficult to send a player home. It was going to be a massive controversy. You would have been reading about it for 5 days straight. But we were prepared to do it because he wasn't meeting the standards of the group, and the group was prepared to do it as well. Now, this is really strange because obviously people are putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with Gio Reyna. My question to you is, why on earth has he come out and publicly said this?
To protect himself. To explain by this statement as to why Gio Reyna was not involved, as to why he wasn't playing, as to why potentially the most talented player in the attack for the United States was not part of the conversation when it comes to performance on the field. He was part of the conversation as to everybody asking, why is he not there? Well, he's essentially telling us why he wasn't playing. What I would say to Gregg Berhalter is, part of managing, and Stevie would know this, part of managing is handling the disappointment of players when you tell them that they're not going to play. And as a professional, you should be able to handle that in a much better than apparently Gio Reyna was handling it with the U.S. men's national team. But as a manager, you have to be able to reach that guy, just like you have to reach Christian Pulisic, you have to reach Tyler Adams, you have to reach everybody. And so maybe there are other ways to go about this than later on, as you've been eliminated, you're now on a press conference or in a conference in New York City, away from the team, away from the moment of pressure, in my opinion, way too late, telling us as to why Gio Reyna wasn't playing. Address it then with Gio Reyna. Because in the end, you want the best out of that guy. You're going to depend on that guy to perform on the field. And I know, I'm not one to absolve players from fault. And Gio Reyna, if indeed he's talking about Gio Reyna, he's at fault as well. And he bears responsibility. But managing goes beyond just putting a 4-3-3 on the field. There's something more to it, and you have to reach every player that is part of your group, that you selected, by the way, that you selected. You have to reach all of those guys.
This is coming from The Athletic, who reported that sources told them that they were not happy with the scrimmage and the effort that Gio Reyna put in ahead of the opening World Cup game.
Yeah. I agree with Ali to the point where you try and get the guy on board. But some people don't get on board. Some people it doesn't work.
Right.
Regardless of how good they are, at the end of the day, the most important thing is the group.
So back to my original question, what, if I'm Gregg Berhalter, am I gaining here by coming out and publicly
saying
saying
the thing,
this?
we're talking about the wrong person here, because Gregg Berhalter, from everybody, since the first game, has been asked questions about Reyna. Why didn't he play?
Right.
And I think he did the right thing. I disagree with Ali that he should have come out straight away after not playing him and telling us it, because he's right. They would have spent 5 days on it, which would have completely taken away.
I'm saying address it with Gio Reyna. I'm not saying address with the media. I don't think he should have said anything to the media.
He did address it with Gio Reyna. As I said, Ali, some players don't... It goes in one ear and goes out the other ear.
Right.
The bottom line for this is not Gregg Berhalter's fault when he said it, when he should have said it. This responsibility is on Gio Reyna. And that's where it should be. We shouldn't be talking about why is Berhalter saying this or why is he doing that. We should be asking Gio Reyna, why did this situation come around? What sort of display are you putting up where you're walking around and training where the whole group is against you? What do you think is going to happen? All these questions should be put straight at Reyna, not Berhalter. In my opinion, Berhalter did the right thing. He kept the thing under wraps. Yes, we asked questions during the tournament and straight afterwards, but now we get the answer, and I think he's gone about this absolutely the right way, and I'll repeat it. This is not about Gregg Berhalter. The question should be pointed at Gio Reyna. And how do you, and why did you get yourself in this position? It's his responsibility, not Berhalter's.
If we're going to focus on Gio Reyna, and I agree with you that the player bears responsibility here. Of course he does. It is surprising. So very surprising when you think of who Gio Reyna is and the sort of pedigree that he has as a player. When you think of his father, Gio Reyna, and what he means to this national team. Of all the players that you could bring up from the U.S. men's national team and say, this guy wasn't ready to play or wasn't displaying the attitude that was needed or wasn't meeting the standards, I would think Gio Reyna would be the last guy, knowing full well what the history of his family, his own father, is with the U.S. men's national team. That he would know what the sacrifices and the standards are. That he would know what the expectations are. That he would know what it meant to his father to represent his country. And that he had a unique opportunity in a World Cup to not only represent himself, but his family and his country. And to be unable to do that because you're not meeting essentially the standards of a full national team call-up, I don't know what the behavior was, and we don't know that for certain. But if it is as egregious as Gregg Berhalter is pointing out in this conference, man, it is a referendum on Gio Reyna as a professional.
He texted Jeff Carlisle. Gregg Berhalter sent him a message saying it's not really important who it was. The important thing is that the group had very clear standards and they were prepared to communicate if the standards weren't being met. Sometimes that communication leads to positive change and a clear pathway forward.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN+.